Okay, so here's a little about me. Really related to this talk, but I thought I'd throw it in anyway. It's where I'm doing a talk on what is an aircraft. So before we start, what exactly is an aircraft? Have you ever given that any thought? Well, doing C of A's, you need to. So the aircraft definitions. This is the Collins English Dictionary. And it says it's any machine capable of flying by means of buoyancy or aerodynamic forces such as a glider, helicopter or aeroplane. So the word aircraft is capturing a whole bunch of things, but CASA don't quite agree with that. And according to the Act, aircraft means any machine or craft that can derive support in the atmosphere from the reactions of the air other than the reactions of air against the Earth's surface. Is a hovercraft an aircraft? So why were certificates of airworthiness issued? Well, there's a whole bunch of reasons, but straight out of the regulations, here it is. For a type certified aircraft, it conforms with the applicable type design and, always watch the ands or ors or shalls, is in a condition of safe operation. Or, for a non-type certified aircraft, can reasonably be expected to be safe when it is operated under the conditions limiting its use and is in a good state of preservation and repair, and so all these things lining up is in a condition for safe operation, and the person issuing the certificate has to determine all of those based on, to a large extent, the certifications made by the various people involved who are qualified to make those certifications. So the origins of the certification process is ICAO, International Civil Aviation Authority. Started off just 1944, so that's before my time, just. And it's the Chicago Convention. Signatories to the convention, which includes Australia, are obliged to uphold the standards, and they're known as contracting states. So not every country is a contracting state or recognised as such. So you can look and read a bit further should you have an uncontrolled desire to read the BS, but there it is. And this is the important bit. Every aircraft engaged in international navigation shall be provided with a certificate of airworthiness issued or rendered by the state in which it is registered. A standard C of A, the classifications. Mighty beaver on floats there, I love them. Well, my dad did too. For aircraft meeting the standards of ICAO Annex 8, with one of the following: normal, which is the majority of general aviation; utility, so a bit of a workhorse, can do various things; aerobatic, speaks for itself, don't go in those; commuter, bit of a strange one, borrowed from the US system; transport, that's the airworthiness category, not the role in which it operates; a manned balloon; and special classes such as, can't read it, another. So a few special notes. There's a little bit about the commuter category, and particularly important to make sure you only pick that category if indeed it is allowed to be picked. and then make sure you've checked in all the normal places. Generally the type certificate data sheet or type acceptance certificate, if it's already come into Australia, will contain the categories as applicable. So special C of A classifications. There's the beaver again. They're in these categories. Primary, and I'm not going to go into any great detail here. Intermediate, limited, restricted. I have that authority on my instrument for certain aircraft. Amateur built? No, don't have that one. Designated as experimental or provisional. I can do experimental certificates for non-conforming light sport aircraft and light sport aircraft generally. What can go wrong? Ha! Trust me, lots. And I'm talking about what can go wrong when you're doing the C of A audit process. And here's a few examples I've come across over the years, doing two Robinson R-22 helicopters side by side, and they had assembled the incorrect serial numbered main rotor heads. So I gave them two choices: change them or just do the paperwork, because they're both exactly the same hours, whatever, out of the factory. I think they changed them. Badly cracked flap. This was in Myanmar. This is a Australian export C of A, and the right hand inboard flap had a crack in it, obviously visible, better part of 6 or 8 inches long. And I said, okay, that's not acceptable unless it's an acceptable defect by the receiving Airworthiness authority, and it's endorsed on the maintenance lease, and you've determined that it's not going to grow and whatever. I'm not sure what they did. The guy on the other end in New Zealand accepted it. A light sport aircraft was modified without the original equipment manufacturer approval. I did not issue the certificate. The guy went then delegate shopping and found someone that would. They're out there. I actually issued the first light sport aircraft C of A in Australia. Well, actually I didn't, CASA did, but I did all the work, as there was no one in CASA at that time that could certify for a light sport. Someone had to be first. Life limited parts in a main rotor gearbox on a Bell 206 helicopter fleet were not being tracked. God only knows why, because they're all individual parts and can be changed out of sequence from the main rotor gearbox. A lot of soul searching needed by the company involved. It wasn't actually a C of A, it was a audit. Aircraft could not be made technically acceptable to the buyer's regulatory authority. It was an export C of A again on a large aircraft, and the export C of A was cancelled, and the reason was the aircraft had been modified for geo-survey work in Australia under our regulations, and these modifications were not acceptable because they weren't STCs to the incoming regulatory authority. The sale fell through. Missing mandatory placards. Transport helicopter in Singapore after a repaint. It was a silly little thing. Decals are easy to ping, and all of the placards on the doors were missing. I said, not good enough. I'll come back when you've got them on. What you do afterwards is entirely up to you. What you should do legally is, whatever. Some people. Now another light sport aircraft. This was over in New South Wales. It was an amphibian, and the manufacturer, who happened to be with the aircraft, decided to not install the main fuel shutoff valve. And he gave me some logic that his mate was killed because he didn't turn the fuel on It's a little collector tank where you run for about 30-45 minutes. And so he said, I'm going to just not put it in. I said, well, that's all very well and good, but you missed the point. How do you shut the fuel off to the engines? You don't. So, no, I'll come back. And he just so happened to have a kit in his flight bag. Nasty. And then, of course, what can go wrong? COVID makes this process not impossible. It was possible to use remote people for your eyes. I never didn't like it, so I didn't do too many during COVID, and COAs have not really picked up since then for me. I do a lot of valuations though. These dovetail nicely into the COA process, and I've done 187 across a range of aircraft since 2023. All aircraft types, large, small home builds, helicopters, both for legal, for court cases, and standard commercial reasons, revaluing your fleet, divorce, whatever. And as I said, it dovetails, as does the tape, right into me. So what does my instrument let me do? So as a CASA authorized person, I can issue the following. That's what it says on the instrument. So I'm not going to bore you with that, because it's obviously you've got to drill down to those various regulations to determine what it is you can do. The instrument is the better part of 4 pages long, but let's have a look here. What does it mean in plain English? Slide 1. Aha. I can issue COAs for any aeroplane that is type certified in the normal, utility, aerobatic, commuter or transport category and has previously been issued with an Australian COA. No weight or passenger limits. Used to be 28 passengers, not above so many kilos. Any helicopter that is type certified in the normal or transport category and has previously been issued. I can actually do first of type, but I need to put my hand up for it to CASA, my oversight office, which is Perth. I can issue special COAs for any aircraft that is type certified in the restricted category. Not strictly true, because it doesn't include the light sport. There's additional limitations are applied, and that's all part of that 4-page document. I can issue experimental certificate for certain light sport aircraft. More limitations apply. I cannot issue COAs to drones or unmanned aerial vehicles, warbirds, so ex-military aircraft, gliders, balloons, or home builds. So as early this year, I issued 125 COAs across a range of categories. Here's the range: light sport airplanes, light sport aircraft, aeroplanes 43, weight shift 3, helicopters normal category 32, helicopter transport 1, airplane normal category 24, airplane restricted category 3, transport under 18 seats 5, transport airplanes, transport over 5, commuter 5, and 6 of those were export COAs. Now an export COA is actually a reinstatement of the import COA. You have to revalidate an import COA. A lot of people don't understand that, so it can be a big task if you've let your record slip. So this flowchart, which engineers like, appears in my procedures manual for COAs that CASA approve or accept, depending on what flavour of the month is. And you can see it's pretty busy. You can always stop the video and read that if you wish. It may not be totally up to date, but it's what's in the manual. And then a link to that, to part 2, you can see, I don't know, let's go just here. So the process is project managed by an Excel spreadsheet, which again is also part of the C of A process. So we just run the, and you'll see if we look at this. Okay. You can see a lot of it's just admin, and then we scroll down here, and in the right hand column is where we put the action, some closing out, and then hide the row so it's not deleted. So we've got a permanent record of the process and how it was acquitted, audited, verified as we step through. Now I started to use these when I was doing 3 or 4 C of A's at one time, and it was impossible to keep the heading straight, and now I just use it as a matter of process. It makes it easy. You don't invent things along the way. The process is in alignment with the regulatory authorities. And as you can see down the bottom is the interesting ones. Should we need a digital photograph, we put the requirement in there and why, and that section can grow, some important notes. And the maintenance organisation has the majority of the work to verify via its process that the aircraft conforms. At the same time, here's the auditor's checklist, including visiting the aircraft on 1 or more occasions if required, and doing a personal look-see. I don't use any other method. So if the C of A is overseas, like I've done them in Singapore and Myanmar and America, that's what the cost will be to the client. Oh, come on. And that's it. Hey, I'm gone. Come back. All is forgiven. Okay, so here we are. Any questions? I hope you found that interesting. During a talk, we will use just the slides themselves.